serving God be easy or hard? Okay, that's a good question. And I know some parts of it are always hard. I mean, because your culture's lined up against you. But should it ever get easy? Well, there's verses that seem to point to that. Psalm 119 verse 45 says, I will walk about in freedom, for I have sought out your precepts. And I will walk about in freedom, it says, that there will be freedom from following God's precepts, that God's standards, God's principles, God's laws, that when we follow them, it moves us into a freeing space, not a constricted space, not a slavery space. In other words, while it may be hard when I first start obeying one of God's principles, it should grow to a freeing, liberating time. Like, for instance, when most people start tithing, when they start giving God a significant percentage, like 10% of their income, at first it's really, really hard. But almost everybody I know who follows through eventually says, not only does it get easy, it gets to be full of blessing. God starts doing really great things in my life. I get to see him work through my living his principles. In other words, I get freedom and joy from obeying. But what if it doesn't happen? What if an obedience of mine gets harder and harder instead of easier? What if a service of mine, when I'm serving God, what if it just gets continuously harder and harder? Well, I think what that means is I'm doing something wrong. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm doing the wrong thing, although it could. But it does mean I'm doing it wrong. I'm not doing it in faith. I'm not doing it out of love. I'm not doing it out of gratitude. There's something in there that's wrong. Because if the way I'm living or my attitude toward serving is perpetually heavy, I am probably doing it wrong. Because if I'm living for God properly, it should bring freedom. After all, Jesus said that if I'm serving him properly, well, it says his yoke is easy and his burden is light. And if it's not light, I'm doing it wrong. And that's today's Jumpstart.